Welcome to Origin Stories. I'm RD.
I'm Parrot.
We're telling stories behind the digital art revolution
Each week we interview top artists.
and live stream with the community.
Let's go. Today is tomorrow's origin story.
Matt Caesar, welcome to Origin Stories.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Excited to have you. We've been talking about this for a little bit, and it's been one of those things we were finally able to make it work with our schedules, and here we are. And I feel like we have a lot to dig into, a lot to dig into on behalf of, as I was telling you off air, someone that I consider one of the founding athlete fathers of the NFT space.
Yeah, man, I feel like I was introduced to it early on, and Micah kind of helped me out by kind of getting into the digital art game with Nifty, and we did the George Floyd drop. We sold, I think it was like 200 in less than 8 minutes, and I said to my wife, I'm like, hey, we just sold out in 8 minutes. She's like, what is it? And I was like, dude, they're NFTs. And we just kind of like laughed at each other. So then after that, I kind of was like, all right, maybe I'm onto something. Maybe I can kind of step away from the physical paintings and kind of focus on the iPad and the computer.
That's amazing. Wait, so all right, we have to get back to that.
Yeah.
But we have to get back to that because I want to know if your wife knew what you were getting yourself into that night and beyond. But
RD, she still doesn't know what I'm doing.
That's great. All right,
she thinks I'm getting like fake money. Like, listen, it's not fake.
You're getting that random Ethereum. All right.
Money,
all right. Hold that thought. We're going to arrive at Micah and George Floyd night and all of that. But let's go back even further. Matt, what is your origin story?
Yeah, so my origin story is, grew up, born and raised in Cape May, New Jersey. Went to Villanova University, played football and baseball. Was drafted in baseball in 2010, the fifth round by the Cubs.
Hey, wait, you won a title in football at Villanova, right?
Yeah, so I went to Villanova on a full football scholarship and played baseball as well. My junior year, we won the national championship. I was MVP of the game, All-American that year. And then that year also was drafted by the Cubs. So my junior year, that 2009 year was a pretty cool year for me. So yeah, when I was drafted by the Cubs, or let me step back. So I donated bone marrow that year as well. I'm not sure if you know that. My freshman year, I joined the bone marrow registry, and my junior year, I got called to donate to a little girl from Ukraine. She was 18 months old at the time. So cool story. I was called to donate the beginning of the playoffs in football. And, I was the slot wide receiver, quarterback, kick return, punt return. I pretty much did everything offensively for Villanova. We had a great team. But I feel like I was the man that kind of put in place to kind of make some plays. And, it was a really good year for me. So I got called the playoff right before the playoffs. And I told my coach, hey, I got called to donate and I'm going to donate. And we kind of like looked at each other and, that was it. I was going to save a life and we were going to go into the playoffs without me. So 2 days later, the same lady called from the bone marrow registry and was like, hey, the girl can't accept the bone marrow right now. She's going through some complications. We need to push it off. We'll call you again later. So we're like, all right, like now it's playoff time. And we ended up winning the national championship and I was MVP of the game. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. And then you were able to follow through.
Yeah. So then during baseball season, I got called to donate, and my last at bat before I went to donate, I hit a home run. And so
I give you chills.
Yeah. So I donated the bone marrow, and I was out 3 to 4 weeks. It's due to a large spleen. The drug they give us is called Neupogen, and the Neupogen creates more white blood cells, which enlarges your spleen. And they pretty much treat it like mono. They don't want you to do any activities. The Neupogen kind of like wears you down, makes you feel like you kind of have a fever, body aches. And then the first game back, my first at bat, I hit a homer too.
You bookended home runs?
Bookended home runs.
Oh,
yep.
That's
I know.
So the delay that leads to the football championship
Yep.
Then
Won the championship, MVP of the game.
then you bookend home runs around the donation.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I feel like if you didn't know you'd have to do anything, like at that moment, did you feel I must create a mission around this with how perfect that all went?
dude, I feel like I literally remember exactly where I was and the feeling that I had. Like I was in West Virginia. So the first game was we played is that like a AAA stadium in Philly. I forget what team it was, but we were playing St. Joe's and I hit a home run right center field off the scoreboard. And I remember, rounding the bases and being like, man, I don't really hit home runs to right center. And then when I didn't even think anything of it, to be honest with you. And then when I came back to West Virginia, I like literally remember being in the box and hitting the home run and rounding first base. And I was like kind of shaking my head like, dang, did that really just happen? Because it was like I was aware of it then. When I hit the home run, I was aware of it. And it was just like, man, this just doesn't happen. This is a godsend for sure.
Isn't it crazy those moments in life, how few and far between they are when you realize in the moment that you are living a story?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I didn't think like that I would continue to kind of go on that path. Like since then, my wife and I started a foundation where we raise money and we raise awareness for like people to join the bone marrow registry. And, we donate money to people who are going through cancer treatments and, donate money to their families. We also donate money to, our district, our school district to help with, food and clothes and presents for Christmas. So, we've been doing that since 16 and we absolutely love it, giving back to where we came from. So yeah, but at the time I never even thought of it. I was just like, man, I'm just crushing homers and saving lives.
Crushing homers and saving lives. That has to be a Matt slogan. Can you carry that forward? Can you do an artwork around that? Crushing homers and saving lives.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, man. So hey, carry that origin story forth. So you book in with homers, you save a life, and then take us to the next step.
Okay, so that weekend I went 8 for 12 in West Virginia, and that was like when the Cub Scout was there, Tim Wilkins, and they drafted me in the 5th round. So I played baseball my junior summer, like professional baseball, and came back to school my senior year to play my senior year in football. Mm-hmm. So I was, played baseball my junior year, was drafted, played summer professional baseball in Boise, Idaho, short season. And then I came back August 6th for football camp to finish out my senior year. So I had I had a good year junior year and a good year senior year. I had some injuries, but I was still, my name was on the map. Was invited to the Senior Bowl in the combine, was training down in Boca Raton at the time with Will Hill, Patrick Peterson, some dudes down here, and Jim Hendry, who was the GM at the time. I was playing football like 100%. I made some money in baseball, but the money that I made for the summer and what they were going to give me wasn't enough for me to leave football. I love football, and where I was slated to go in the NFL draft, like that money was more than what I was making in baseball. And once you sign with a football team, like that's the money you make and you're in the NFL. It's not like I'm not like playing minor league NFL, So that was kind of like my bargaining piece. Jim Hendry flew down, watched me work out, took me to dinner, offered me more money, and it still wasn't like 3rd round money for the NFL. And I told him, I was like, listen, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Mm-hmm. Like, I have this money sitting here from you right now, but I have the potential to make more money and be in the NFL right away. Mm-hmm. And he called me back with what was 3rd round money and offered me 3rd round money. And I took it. I was on a plane home the next day, went back to Villanova, graduated with a liberal arts degree. And then I've been playing baseball ever since. Went through the systems 2010 and got to the big leagues in 14. Was up and down in 14 and 15. Mm-hmm. Played my full year in 2016. And I have another cool story for you. Regarding like the bone marrow donation, they came out with a second E60 during the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to run that. So while I was like, playing, they wanted to like highlight that story.
And for those who don't know, it's ESPN E60, right? A bit of a documentary-ish program.
Yep. And so Rizzo was slumping pretty bad, Anthony Rizzo, and he used my bat. He was like, "Hey, C's, like, let me grab your bat." And that day they ran the story, and then from that day on, he just started dominating. And he was like, "Dude, it has to be because of the story. It has to be because of the story." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. You just started hitting." But that was like, it was cool to see like the hype around the story, and it was a great story. They ran it on ESPN, and then he was like, "Let me use your bat," and it just kind of took off. So that was pretty cool.
The magic continues.
Yeah. So 2016 won the World Series with the Cubs. 17 was with them for about 2 months, and then got traded to the Padres. Was with the Padres the rest of 17 and the beginning of 18, and then they DFA'd me, which is called designated for assignment, which is they tried to send me down to the minor leagues, and a team has, I think there's like any team in the MLB has like 7 to 10 days to pick me up. Nobody picked me up, so I stayed in the minor leagues. 2019, I signed with the Diamondbacks, played in the minor leagues with them. And 2020, when I discovered digital art, and I'll bring up where Micah was I had surgery. I tore my oblique and my groin. So I had surgery, and I just kind of decided, with COVID, both my parents were sick with cancer. So me being home and me being like healthy, and we just had a baby too, and me being around my family was just like the best thing for me to do. So I really was like, is this going to be the end of my baseball career? Just because, one, I'm not playing, two, like I'm coming off injury. So, I really started to dive into art, and, I've been selling paintings and selling prints for probably 6 or 7 years now. But Micah had reached out. Someone had messaged had tweeted at both Mike and I and said, "Hey, I would love to see you guys do a collab." So we got together and was like, "Hey, this is the perfect time. Let's do a George Floyd painting, a white baseball player artist to a black baseball player artist." It just was like combined to show unity. And, I did one side of his face, he did the other side of his face. And he's like, let's put this in NFTs. And I was like, what the heck is an NFT? And he was just like, "Dude, just trust me. Like, we're going to get on Nifty Gateway." And I feel like as an athlete or any person, you're always skeptical when you hear something new. And I was so skeptical, dude. Like, I was just like, all right, and I really didn't know Micah. And I was like, "Dude, I'll just trust you because I know you're a baseball player and I know you've been in the art for a few years as well. So let me just trust you." And that's when we did a physical painting, which sold for 10 grand to Jason Hayward, and we donated all to charity. And then we did.
That's amazing. I didn't know that Jason Hayward bought the painting.
Yeah. Yep. He bought the physical painting. And then we did the NFTs, which sold on Nifty Gateway. And like I said, we sold, I think it was 200 of them in less than 8 minutes. And that's, or maybe 80 at $200. I think it might have been. I don't know. And I turned to my wife, and I like honestly wasn't following it. Micah just texted me and was like, "Hey, we're sold out in less than 8 minutes." And I was like, "Hey, Nat, like we sold out in less than 8 minutes." She's like, "What is it?"
What did you sell out?
And I was like, "I'm not really sure. They're NFTs." And then from then on forward, I found out that Tommy was the one who did like part of the animation for the George Floyd one. And so I reached out to Tommy. And I was like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing?" And he pretty much put me in touch with Zach from Super Rare. And it's been like history since, man. I started off with my digital art career as like kind of putting feelers out. I really wasn't sure what sold on there. And, I probably sold 3 or 4 paintings for maybe like $230 each. And I was so pumped about that, as I'm sure a lot of people were back then. And then I saw Fiwo, and Fiwo inspired the heck out of me. And I saw what they were selling for it. I was like, wow, Fiwo is telling a story. And story is, the art is magnificent. I think they do like really cool stuff. But behind it, you have the story of somebody's journey who's going through a tough time. And just that's from my perspective. I feel like what they told was a story of them growing up and not really going through a really good childhood. And I feel like people can relate to that, and people want to support someone like that.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, that sells. Like, truth sells. So let me try and tell my truth and my story. So that's when I came up with, I started painting my skeleton skull.
Mhm.
And that was a representation of me donating bone marrow, and always kind of putting that forward and raising awareness through the skull and through the skeleton. And I kind of like threw a crown on the skeleton to kind of depict my last name. My last name is pronounced Caesar, but if you look at it, you would never think it was Caesar. So I think tying those two together are a story in one, and putting stuff around it. Like, one of my favorite one was control what you can control, and it's or comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's a skeleton meditating over fire.
Mhm.
And I think that, like, people can relate to that. The times when people are successful is because they're pushing themselves through being uncomfortable. And at least that's for me. Like, when I do uncomfortable things, like, even doing podcasts or, speaking in public, like,
Mhm.
that makes me better. That makes me build a better resume. Speaking in public is tough for me, so I try and do it as much as I can. Um, you
That
know,
and that right there, what you just said, blank is tough for me, so I try and do it as much as I can. I think that's a powerful, powerful mindset to have, and I think that is somewhat. It's not unique to just you, but I do think it's not everyone that thinks that way.
yeah, and honestly, dude, digital art really helped me be vulnerable, and it helped fans, friends, like my wife and family know this about me,
Mhm.
but nobody else does. Nobody else knows what I feel like. Nobody else knows that, you know, what what inspired me. I kind of keep my circle small, and
Mhm.
I think by painting some of my story and my journey, it allows people to kind of look inside my life and kind of see what I'm going through, whether it's good or bad.
I love that personally. I'm sure different people appreciate different things about art, but hearing you say that about Fiwo, who, by the way, Fiwo, shout out, tremendous bright light in the digital art community and beyond. But yeah, that transparency, that sharing what is going on around you in your own life, what you're observing, and yeah, just wearing that on your sleeve. I've always been attracted to that in art.
Yeah, dude. And like I said, it was definitely, you know, as a male, we just want to not be vulnerable. Like, we
Mhm.
want to be strong men because that's what we're depicted as being. Like, that's what we are in society, strong men. Like,
Mhm.
so me being a baseball player, football player, like, I'm supposed to be like a strong dude. And I am. I think I'm physically strong, and I know I'm mentally strong as well. But I feel like there's definitely some things where I am vulnerable with, and for me to share that, like, even like my art, my creations, like, I was nervous to put out because they weren't like my traditional art. Like, what I've been painting for the last 5-6 years has been like athletes and icons, like stencil paintings, like, and I've sold a lot, and I've done a lot of work with that.
Mhm.
But for me to kind of like be vulnerable and put something like on a paper that's not sports related was hard for me, and I was nervous about it, and that was like me comfortable being uncomfortable. Like,
Mhm.
that's how I came up with that thought, because that's how I felt, and I don't feel like that now, because I've put enough stuff out where I'm like, you know what, this is me. Like, yeah, I love doing icons, and I love doing athletes, and I will still continue to do physical paintings of that. But my digital art will be like me as like my true self, and it's not going to be painting other people.
Take us back to the beginning of that, painting other people. How does art even come in the first place? Is it something, did you create art as a child? Did you create art as a young adult? Where did that come in?
So yeah, so my dad, he's super creative. He used to make bucktails. I don't know if you know what a bucktail is. It's a fishing lure. So he would make bucktails. We really didn't have time to take care of fish. He always had fish tanks growing up. His family owned a restaurant, which is right on the water. So he had like a big saltwater fish tank at the restaurant. He could change the water by the seawater, like outside. Like he always had it. So we didn't have time because we were always like going around playing baseball or football, whatever we're doing. So he carved out a whole fish tank scene. And I remember like literally watching him carve out stripers and bluefish. And I was like, how the heck is he doing this with like balsa wood? I don't know if you know what balsa wood is, but it's like really thin or lightweight wood. And he's making these rocks out of styrofoam and paint them. And I was like, what the heck's going on? So I always was by his side while he was doing stuff, whether it was making bucktails or carving or sketching or drawing. So I always took interest in that as a young age. And obviously throughout school was always in art classes. My junior and senior year I took double art. In college it kind of faded away until my junior and senior year, where I had to like come up with those like classes to get credits. And I took watercoloring, I took art history, which I learned a lot and I loved it. And I was like, man, I wish I would have taken this earlier on. And then when my wife and I started our foundation, I was like, what would be cool to auction off that isn't normal? So I always wanted to do these stencils, and I was like, let me just try and do stencil painting and see how it works out. Like I'll hand cut the stencils, I'll draw the stencils, and we'll see what happens. So I did a self-portrait of me as a football player at Villanova and a self-portrait of me as a Chicago Cub. And they both sold for $500 each. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, we made a decent amount of money. And I've always told everybody, like, just do what you love and you are going to get feedback. You're going to get opportunities to continue to do it. So that year the Cubs reached out and they were like, hey, we loved what you did. Can you do us a painting of the World Series for our Bricks and Ivy ball? And their Bricks and Ivy ball is like their big charity fundraiser. They raised millions of dollars at that foundation event. And so I did it. I did a painting of, it was Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, and it was them like about to hug or jump or whatever. And the reason why I did that is because like when I picture the World Series, I picture like they were my two good friends there, and I picture them. So that's what I did, and it sold for 40 grand.
Amazing.
And I was like, dang, like maybe I'm onto something here. So that's kind of how I started to paint the athletes. And from there I did MJ, Ryan Sandberg, pretty much anybody, Ken Griffey, anybody you can think of.
I saw 2017 on your Instagram randomly, Mark McGwire.
Yeah, Mark McGwire. See, and that's like, I did, Tyson Ross was a pitcher with the Padres, and I did probably 3 or 4 paintings for him. And just by doing that, like McGwire came up to me. This is a funny story. I love Big Mac. He was one of the greatest dudes I've ever met. Super humble, never ever entitled. Like walked around like a normal dude, joked around like a normal dude. Was awesome. He got inducted into the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame, and he missed like 3 or 4 days of being with the Padres to go get inducted, and he like kind of like shuffles his feet over to me, and he's like, "Hey, C's, like what's going on?" And I was like, "Nothing. Like what's up?" He's like, "So I kind of have a question for you, but it's completely okay if you say no." And I'm like, "Dude, what do you got?" Like, well, can you do a painting for me, for me and my wife? Like, I got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and I have a cool picture that I want to get hung up. I was like, "Dude, are you kidding me? Like, I'm gonna paint something for Big Mac?"
Yeah.
And he just started laughing. He's like, "Whatever the price, just let me know." And I'm like, "Dude, I don't want your money. Just give me something cool, and we'll call it a deal." So he gave me a Wheaties box. He signed a Wheaties box that he was on. He gave me this really cool card where it like flips. It's like a holograph card that flips, and it's like there's only like a certain amount that are out. And he signed it for me. And then he gave me one of his jerseys, and the friggin' jersey's massive. And he signed that for me.
Big Mac is massive.
Yeah. So I mean, that was just by doing those 2 portraits, those 2 self-portraits to raise money for my foundation. I got so many opportunities to like work with cool athletes or work with foundations too, and it was just because I was like, you know what, like, let me see what happens here. And those paintings, not that they were horseshit, but they were good paintings, but they weren't anything special.
Mhm.
And then I just evolved and started to get better and better and better and better. Now, like, I really love my stuff. Like, my lines are super crisp. I love the background. I love the colors. So it's just cool to kind of see, like you said, the beginning till the end.
Yeah. And I
And
like
it's
something
still,
you,
go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. I
That's
like
still
some,
not ended. I'm still like working on stuff and learning new techniques and
yeah.
still evolving every day.
I like something you said. So, I'm paraphrasing, but if you keep putting time into something that you love, you'll have an opportunity to continue doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's another really powerful line of thought.
Yeah, dude. I always thought that, like, if you just spend like a certain amount of time doing something,
Hmm.
like the connections that I've made in digital art are connections from all over the world, and they're like really great people.
Hmm.
And all because like I was vulnerable and decided to pursue this as, you know, a career. This could be a secondary career. This is a secondary career to me now, but once
Hmm.
I'm finished baseball, it will be my career. Like, I'll continue to do digital art, because I love it and it allows me to like tell my truth and my story. So just by doing that, like, and kind of keep pushing to it, like, I was an artist that didn't sell for a lot of money,
Hmm.
early on, and I set prices high that I didn't sell for.
Hmm.
But I just kept putting out quality stuff and kept at it and kept making connections and
Hmm.
and kept doing things that put me on the right track. And even though, so I did another painting called Tap the Rock, and the story behind it, the parable behind it, is a stone cutter goes out and taps the rock every day, tap, tap, tap. And finally, the tap breaks after thousands of tap. But it's not that last tap that counted. It's all the taps he did to get that last tap to break the rock.
Hmm.
And I think that's what I always kind of tell myself, whether it's baseball, whether it's sports, academics, art, just keep tapping, and one day that shit's gonna break.
Keep tapping the rock.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate, the B side to that parable is somebody who understandably stops on the 702nd
Yeah.
tap, right?
Yeah. And it happens all the time.
All the time. Yep. So I like that story. I like telling that parable, creating a whole artwork around it. It's a powerful thing to pass along to others.
Yep.
I'm really happy you're telling that story now, because I can guarantee it resonates with me, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to resonate with a lot of other people. So everyone out there, keep tapping the rock.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So walk us through. So okay, Micah and you collab.
Yep.
You put your trust in him, even though you don't know him all that well at that current place and time. He's a fellow baseball player, has a good head on his shoulders. You say, all right, let's go into this thing, NFTs. The George Floyds sell out. You tell your wife, she doesn't know what you're talking about. And then now walk us through. So coming out of that, you see some promise. How does that carry forth into the next NFT step?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had no idea what to do from there. So Micah had given me, I think he gave me Tommy Wilson's number or his contact info, and or I saw it somewhere. I saw that he was doing NFTs, so I reached out to him because I had no idea, and I'm okay with. I feel like there's certain people out there that don't like getting information or don't like asking questions, but dude, I'm not that one. I mean, you can tell, like, I wanted to tell you my story, so I reached out to you, and I'm not afraid to do that, and I'm not afraid to like take constructive criticism, or I can admit when I'm wrong. So I reached out to Tommy and I'm like, hey, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that kind of pretty much introduced me to Super Rare. And I met with Zach. There's 2 or 3 times when I like tried to set up my Super Rare account where I was just like, damn it, like, forget this. This is like, what am I doing right now? And then finally I was like, all right, set some time away, set an hour away, and get this done.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally did it, and I was like, all right, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders a little bit.
What was the main obstacle when you were doing that? Take us back.
I think it was like trying to figure out MetaMask, and that was like my biggest hurdle. Like, even for like the first 5 or 6 sales, I was still like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing right now? So now I kind of have it down pretty good.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but when you said MetaMask, I thought that was where you were going to go with it. And I will tell you, I've mentioned I think once before, but I learned MetaMask for Victor Mascara. So shout out Victor Mascara.
No way. Yeah.
But it's a hurdle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So many of us now, of course, MetaMask, yeah, no big deal. But
Yeah.
man, at the beginning,
Mhm.
it's a barrier.
Yeah, yeah. So that was tough for me. That was like I almost friggin' threw the tapper out and almost gave up on the rock there. But I knew it was worth it, and I didn't know why I knew it. I just had a good feeling about it. So then I was like, all right, now what the hell am I gonna paint? Because I can't animate anything, and I can just tell by going through Super Rare the things that sell are the animated 2D works, like the abstract, the surreal 2D animations. So Tommy actually like we did Zoom, and he showed me for probably like an hour how to work After Effects. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of difficult. So I'll try and figure it out. So I kind of like set that aside and didn't use it because I figured out how to use like GIFs in Procreate. And then I started seeing other people's stuff, and I was like, all right, I can't be using Procreate. Like that's pretty lame. And I saw Fuo stuff, and Fuo was doing stuff with like Liquify, and I saw that it was very subtle animations, but it really made the painting. And I was like, all right. So I reached out to Fuo, and Fuo told me, it was like, hey, I use Liquify and Easy Ease. That's it. And I was like I need to learn how to use Liquify and Easy Ease. So I downloaded After Effects. I, put myself through some tutorials and started doing that when I started creating like my skull and skeletons. And I was like, all right, now we got something here. And that's like, so I learned After Effects when I was learning how to tell my story. And I feel like that kind of like set me up here instead of, just doing like GIFs. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Sorry. Something came up my computer. So I started using Procreate and bringing it into After Effects and being able to animate from there. But I knew that Procreate just by itself, for me at least, wasn't gonna work. So there was a learning curve. I grinded on After Effects and YouTube for hours, just trying to figure out things to do and how to do it. But yeah, man, I'm sitting here telling you that it was hard, and friggin' I put in a lot of work, and I can't imagine all the work that these 3D guys are doing.
Well, so in your case, you triumph, right? And you put your first artwork on Super Rare, and that is Julius Caesar, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
that was my Procreate. Like that was, I didn't know what to do, and I saw Hackatal, and I saw how Hack converted into like the Bitcoin guy or whatever. So I'm like, all right, like let me do Julius Caesar into the Bitcoin guy and see how it works. And I set that bar pretty high, and that didn't sell until Stagflation brought me into Decentraland, and Max Stealth purchased my piece from there, and he purchased like 3 or 4 pieces, and I was like, holy smokes. I remember like almost wanting to cry because it was snowing at the house. Like it was just crazy. And I like looked at my MetaMask, and there was like $7,000 in it. And I looked to my wife, I'm like, he didn't just buy one, he like stacked them up. Yeah. And she's like, which ones did he buy? And I like told her, and she's super proud of me. She knows the hard work I put in and how much I love art. So, it was a cool moment for me, and for both of us. Max
Stealth has gone back, and he has stacked Matt Caesar, and he has also stacked Tommy Wilson. So yeah. Max Stealth going after those athlete trailblazers in the NFT space for sure.
It's cool too, because he got me at an early stage, and all my stuff is, I think the most expensive one he bought was for maybe like $3,000.
Mhm.
And I'm selling stuff for 10K plus now. So
Mhm.
he like he must have seen something, and I really appreciate that.
Mhm. Yep. That power collector, big personality. So, and yeah, I see Julius Caesar. 1.75 ETH is the Genesis, well, the super rare Genesis at least.
Yep.
And then on down. So then talk us through a few of your other super rare artworks that mean something to you. So from Julius Caesar, we see Ali next, but then go wherever you want to go as to the artworks you will remember.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the ones, my most recent ones. When I start getting into the skull and the skeleton, that is like, I think, my identity. I was
Mhm.
really put on this earth to probably help save that little girl's life.
Mhm.
So for me, those are, I'm gonna keep painting that skeleton until I probably can't paint no more, just because
Mhm.
of the meaning behind it. And if that can continue to push and raise awareness, and for conversations like you and I are having right now, like that people are understanding why I paint the bone, or the skeleton and the skull, that is me raising awareness. And people are going to continue to ask me, hey, how come a skull, or how come a skeleton? And I'm going to say, that represents me donating bone marrow and saving a life. And you can too. All you have to do is join the registry.
Yeah.
So I think for me, like, all those pieces, I try and paint them, and have them relate to, like, sports stuff within, like, things that I learned from sports that you can take into everyday life, like the parable of the stonecutter. Father Rob Hagan, who was Villanova's chaplain at the time and still is Villanova's football and basketball chaplain, he's the one that told that story. And I have a rock that my dad and my uncle gave to me from the foundation of their restaurant, of their old restaurant. I have that rock that I have at my house that I continue to tap.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's those are the types of things that I try and be relatable to people. And it's relatable to sports as well. So I feel like those messages, like the comfortable being uncomfortable, to control what you can control. I drew up my skeleton with his own hand as a puppet,
Mhm.
controlling his body, because you know in life you really can't control certain things. You have to control, like, for me, like, I was just as an artist, as a person, when you see people selling stuff for 30, 40, $50,000, not that you get jealous, but you're like, dang, like, I want to do that.
Mhm.
But in order for me to do that, I can only control what I can control. And that is to continue to tell a story and to put out quality work.
Mhm.
Right. So I feel like we all, as humans, go through that, like, I guess, little FOMO
Mhm.
thing for a couple seconds, whether it's, a guy getting called up to the big leagues instead of me. Well, I can't control that. I can't control who they call up. I have to control, like, me hitting 330 and 30 homers. Like, I can control that. Nobody else can. And if I do that, then maybe I'll get called up to the big leagues. So I feel like, even in work, getting promoted, like, yeah, maybe there's politics involved, but I can't control what they're doing up there. I have to put my best foot forward and control what I'm doing at my desk. And if I'm the best, people will see that and I'll get promoted. So I feel like a lot of my stories and my journeys through there, I've dealt with, whether it's sports or, not really business, because I've never really been in the business scene, but people that are in the business scene can relate to what I'm going through in sports. So I feel like those are the kind of, like, the biggest things for me. And I don't know if you're looking at my stuff. There's one called "Become the Bull" or "Be the Bull,"
Mhm.
and that was told by Ken Ravizza. Told me a story. He was a mentor of mine, and he passed away a few years ago. But he's very well known, sports. I guess you'd call him sports mentor, or sports psychiatrist. And he told me that story. Like, and I feel like he told me that story because I was on the brink of becoming, like, an everyday big leaguer, and that was me becoming the bull. Like, so the story behind that is there was a monk and he had problems with, brain change. They called it enlightenment. And, one of the monks told him, hey, sit in the cell and think about nothing but the bull, meditate on the bull, think about the physicalness of the bull, what the bull does. And, came back 2 days later and was like, hey, you're ready, let's go. And he said, I can't get out, my horns are too big. So subtly you're like, what? Oh, he became the bull. He thought about the bull and he became the bull. Well, that's everything. That's life, like, if you put your mind to something, chances are you're going to achieve it. One of the things I'm huge about is writing goals down. And the reason why I write goals down is so I can become the bull. I can achieve those goals. I see those goals. I not necessarily meditate on those goals, but I see those goals every day. I wake up and I see those goals. So for me, it's like, technically I'm becoming, the goals. And, sometimes I don't achieve them, but they're there to, either get past or, a reference point for me to try and achieve.
What's your process behind those goals? So how do you reevaluate them? Do you have periodic appointments with self to kind of take a step back, look at them? Do you have a prefixed date, or do you just go with intuition?
I would say I go with intuition. Most of my goals are baseball related. Honestly, I haven't really written any art goals down because, my goal was to buy a watch and I gave myself a 5-year timeline, and I achieved that goal in, half a month. So for me, it was like, man, maybe your goal should be bigger. Scratch the watch. You don't need a watch that's materialistic. Think about something that you can build as an asset. Mm-hmm. And I think that helped me realize, like, hey, this is something good right here. Don't waste it on a watch. But like for me, I gave myself 5 years to buy the watch because, I figured I was going to make 1,000 and put it away, and just kind of have that watch fund. Yep. Well, now I look at it, I'm like, all right, scrap the watch, like buy the watch when you're 50. Mm-hmm. Now it's time to build some assets with this money that you're making, which, is, I guess in term is a goal. That is my art goal, to continue to one, pass the message along for donating bone marrow. Mm-hmm. And two, to kind of build this foundation and kind of take it into assets. And obviously, I have money in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'd be stupid not to, but I'm being smarter with what I was going to do.
Right. Right.
So my baseball goals are, always kind of to stay healthy. I always set an average. I always set team goals, because, if you're on a team that's winning, chances are you're going to continue to play, whether it's on another team or, at the next level. Mm-hmm. So I always set team goals about, even if I don't know a team I'm on, I set goals about, what I want to do. So I think the biggest thing for me is just intuition, just being aware of my surroundings and know what I'm going to do and try to do.
I enjoy that too, about not setting specific goals with digital art and art in general, because you had framed for me, it may have even been pre-recording, but you framed it as a pressure release valve, right? Yeah. As something that you enjoy doing, that, you have a lot of different things going on. You have, pursuit of baseball, you have the foundation, you have family, right? And then you have art. Can you describe that a little bit, how you use art in your own life?
Yeah. So, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and, one of my goals was, as a professional baseball player, was, I wanted to build my own house. Mm-hmm. So that, for me, was, all right, once I can get enough money to build my own house, that's what I want to do. That is my goal. And, I achieved that goal, and my wife and I, we built a really nice house. So that was my goal. But what I didn't realize was, up until I got that money, I was always sketching what my house would look like. So internally, subconsciously, I was drawing and relieving stress. And by doing those research, because I remember I'm sitting here talking to you about it, and I literally remember vividly me sitting in my apartment in Des Moines, Iowa in AAA, mm-hmm. drawing what I envisioned our house to be. So technically, like, when you say we're setting goals, like maybe that was my goal when I was drawing it. But also I was like relieving stress, whether, was going for 0 for 4, or even like in baseball, man, if you go 4 for 4 and you're on that high, and then you go 0 for 4 and then you're straight down, it's kind of tough to deal with. So for me, art helped me keep that like steady flow, because I would go home, sketch a little bit, and I still do the same, dude. I remember, I'm not comparing myself to like Kobe Bryant, but in his spare time, he would write poems, and on the plane, he would like, read books, and people would be like, "Yo, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm setting myself up for the future." Well, when I would get home from like big league games and games, I would be drawing, and I had that same mindset. I was like, releasing stress, and I'm setting myself up for the future. I don't know what my future will hold by drawing, but I'm still doing it, So I feel like for me, art was a big time stress reliever, and it still is, man. Like you can see on what I draw or what I paint and how it's relatable to everybody. And I do it for a reason. I do it because those things like help me relieve stress. Like my next painting is called Fighting My Demons. Like you look at me and you might not think there's like anything wrong, but I feel like everybody has some sort of not, I could say mental disorder, but everybody has some sort of demons going on, and my demons are always, for the past couple of years have been like fighting my injuries. So I feel like having injuries over the course of the last couple of years has been more of a mental battle for me than a physical battle for me. And, my wife sees it and she knows that I'm battling, even though that you can't tell that I'm battling. So, and I feel like people can relate to that. So I'm going to release it May 1st, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I believe I'm going to work with Darren Ravel and donate a percentage to his charity we talked about the other day.
That's great.
Yeah. So and his charity, is based around that. So I feel like that is something that people go through every day, and it's very relatable. And by me painting something like this shows that I'm vulnerable enough to admit that. And if people are dealing with something like that, if I can do it, they can do it. And I think that speaks a lot of volume.
It's amazing. You preempted a question that I was going to throw at you tonight. So a former guest of Origin Stories, Plant Daddy, Sam Clover, she had lobbed a question of describe something that art saved you from. So in this way, you've related injuries, right? Being down for the count, having that 0 for 4, but still having that tap the rock kind of habit of going to the drawing, going to the painting, releasing that stress and coming out better for it. Can you paint a picture of one of those low days that you clearly remember blank happened, whether it was an 0 for 4 or whether it was a particularly painful part of an injury process? And then can you tie that to a specific visual of a drawing or a painting?
I don't have it yet, but I have ideas for it. Like I know what I feel like when I get injured, and I know that I have to say something. And it breaks my heart thinking about it, because I know my wife, she hates when I come home. Not hates it, but she's upset when I come home and I'm like, hey, I messed something up. And her heart breaks because she knows that, like, all the hard work that I put in, and something like random happens, so for that day, we'll usually eat like Taco Bell, or it's like a sob day, we're at our all-time lows. But what I feel like, I've always wanted to draw this, but or paint this, but I'm not like ready to paint it yet, is like me just under a table. Like that's how I feel. Like I just want to crawl under a table and hide. And that's me being vulnerable, but that is really how I feel. When I'm hurt, I'm like, God damn it, man, again. Like, and I feel like with this Fighting My Demons piece, it's similar, but it's not the initial feeling. The initial feeling when I get hurt, I just like I'm embarrassed because I don't want to be hurt. So for me it's like, that's what I'll draw, probably like a set of bones and a skull like under like a random table, and that'll be it, because those are my emotions. And it's hard to even like tell you that, but that's because I don't want to seem vulnerable. Like, I said, we're big, strong men, but like, yeah, that is like, those are like the toughest things for me.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah, it's real, dude. Like, and you know what? Like, people will be like, dude, you just got hurt. You're a professional baseball player. You'll be all right. Like, yeah, that is like, and I agree with that. But with it, what it does to me, like mentally, like it fucks me up sometimes. And yeah, everything's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, I'm just injured, but but
it could feel like the end of the world.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's like, dude, this is like, I love this. And it just hurts for me not to be able to do something I love because I'm injured.
One of the things that my wife and I like to say sometimes is you get one day to wallow.
Yeah.
When something, so the Taco Bell that you described, when something like that just goes horribly wrong, and you come home and you're feeling like the skull under the table, just taking that one day to wallow, and then understanding the sun will rise, and pick it up, move it along, and get back to tapping the rock, and maybe a different way if you're recovering from something.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we do. And I'm, dude, like I said, I believe that I'm really strong mentally, but it takes a little bit out of me when it happens. And I give myself a day, and we'll eat like shit, and we'll just kind of like figure things out and come up with a plan, and we stick to that plan.
Yep. And get back to it.
Yep.
Matt, you ready to play a game?
Sure.
It's the lightning round.
All right.
All hot takes. I'm just going to throw things at you. Be quick, be snappy. First thing that comes to mind. If you want to hit timeout and go on a tangent and tell a story about something, you're more than welcome to, but otherwise just stick to the spirit of it and keep it rolling.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Lightning round. Julius Caesar.
I think of Hail Caesar.
Digital art.
NFTs, FIWO.
Ethereum.
$2,200.
23, right?
The last time I checked, it was 22. That's I'm lightning. I'm hot take.
Nice. Super rare.
Very grateful.
Nifty Gateway.
Extremely grateful. It introduced me to digital art.
Tommy Wilson.
Great friend.
Chicago Cubs.
I can go on a tangent about this if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they drafted me in 2010, and I was traded in 2017. They signed me for a really good chunk of money, life-changing money, and I'm forever grateful. I was with them when they were the lovable losers, and was with them when they were World Series champions. I love Chicago. I love the teammates I had in Chicago. They're my best friends, and they'll be best friends forever. And I can't wait to have that like 10-year anniversary, the 20-year anniversary of the World Series. So I can't say enough good things about them.
Selfish question. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia.
You know I'm from there, right?
No, I didn't know.
You know
Where at?
So I'm from Lower Bucks County.
Oh,
but I spent 2001 through 2017 in Philadelphia.
Where did you go to high school?
Council Rock.
So you're familiar with like Cape May, Wildwood area?
Yeah. My wife is from New Jersey, and we go to the Cape May area. We've been to the Cape May area probably 3-4 times over the past 5-8 years.
Dude, we're gonna have to link up then.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking that. I didn't know if you knew that from my.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, I love Philly. I'm big. I mean, Nova's in Philly and
Mhm.
Philly cheesesteaks, like you're missing out if you haven't got one.
Yeah. We'll talk. We'll link up at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Matt. Last artwork that stopped you in your tracks when you saw it. And let's go last NFT based artwork that stopped you in your tracks when you saw it.
Mm. Dang, I'm failing the test right now. I mean, there's so many. Sheet. I saw. I think the one where I literally like was like, holy crap, was a painting by Odious, and it was. I think I'm saying that right, right?
Yeah. Shout out Odious. We
Yeah.
love Odious on Origin Stories.
And it was like him in school, and I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. I guess it was like told the story. It was from a Don't Buy meme, and it was like big picture of his face, and it was just the coolest thing ever. I stopped and looked at it and watched it.
Yeah. They're so talented, Odious.
Yeah.
The last artwork or artist or anything in that realm that you saw or you thought of and you said, why don't more people know about this?
I mean, Fiwo, I know they're like getting super popular, but if I think once you type in NFTs, like they should be the first thing that pops up just because of the story. Definitely a pioneer of the space, and has so many like such a bright future.
Bright future. Agreed. That's a good one. That's a good one too, because it's an unorthodox answer to the question, right? Usually it's someone who is a bit more unrecognized, right? But I like that you went there and someone that is a very popular name. A lot of people listening to Origin Stories will immediately, of course, know who Fiwo is, but you took it that step up. It's not even enough that you view Fiwo as someone who will go to even greater heights. And I would agree with you 100%. So Matt, I already threw the question from a previous guest at you, kind of got tied in with what you were saying before, but now I'll ask you, what question would you like to ask to an unnamed future guest who is an artist?
See, like I'm so interested in people's backstory, and just because I saw myself like bring my story to life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my biggest question would probably be like how, if you could paint your story in one painting, what would you do?
I like that.
Is that a good question?
That's a great question.
Okay.
Matt Caesar, if you could paint your story in one painting, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I would tie, obviously I would tie the donation into it. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw my curtain call piece, but I feel like that
your last one, right?
Yeah. Has a lot of my story into it because, I have baseball, and then I have people who inspired me throughout life. My wife's on there. My son is on there. Anastasia is on there. The little girl I donated to, she's in the bottom left corner. My mom and dad are on there. I put like MJ, Kobe, and I did it so that I wouldn't get in trouble by using them. That's why I kind of like cut out the faces and the jerseys and everything. But like Superman's on there. I'm a huge Iron Man fan, so I put Robert Downey Jr. on there. Picasso, Andy Warhol, Dali. Leroy Neiman. I'm a big fan of Leroy Neiman because he is a huge sports artist, and he inspires me with his colors, with his technique. Who else? Beeple's on there. I don't know if you can see him. He's to the right of me. He's right next to the Black Panther, I think. He's got his glasses.
Yes, I see him.
Yep.
Love it.
So and those people, if I could paint a picture to kind of like express my story, it would definitely be like the people who inspired me, my baseball story in a nutshell, the donation. I would try and tie all those together. Just the things that kind of like you know, I'm cool with giving credit to people. You know, I'm not successful. I'm not who I am today without those people.
Mhm.
And I never met most of them, you know, and that's the coolest part, you know, I feel like. So yeah, that's what I would do.
I enjoy very much the collection of characters that you put on there because they make up this amalgam of very real world people who are close to you, people that you've helped, people that you've never met but were inspired by, and outright fictional characters that inspire
Yep.
you. I really appreciate the range that you went to, and that's real.
Yeah, it's
That's
real.
just that's
Real to
flat
me.
out real. I think
Yep.
we all have fictional characters that inspire us for one, for one reason or another, whether it's for a character from a book or a character from a movie or a show or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, man.
So Matt, this has been an honor. It's been a pleasure, man, having you on for this story. I think you went a lot of different places, and one thing that I just want to go back on for a second, the parables and the relatable phrases, the actionable phrases, the control what you can control, and the just keep tapping, keep going, right? These are messages that I just feel are flat out important, and they may sound like if you catch a phrase in a certain moment, it may sound simple and like, oh, of course I get that. But you put them together and you string these beliefs together and you form a belief system. That's something that can carry you forward for a long, long time. Something can get you out of, talk about the under the table moment, the dark spot, something that can bring you up from that moment and carry you forth. So thank you for sharing that, not only here, but thank you for sharing that so clearly through your art as you step your art forward. I think it's a powerful message. I think it's an important one.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an honor to be on here with you, RD. I know you spoke with a ton of awesome artists, and I'm lucky to be on here. And as far as the parables, like, I think the biggest thing is to be relatable. And like I mentioned before, I think I try and paint. I try and paint what everybody goes through, like you said, comfortable being uncomfortable, how many times in the day, even taking a cold shower,
Mm-hmm.
is helps you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, yeah, you don't want to do it, but at the end of the day, there's something that triggers in your mind that if you get in that cold shower, if you do something you don't want to do, then
Mm-hmm.
chances are you're going to take that into speaking publicly. You're going to take that into putting out your art. It's just you play little mind games with yourself that kind of benefits you. And I think, like I said, it relates to baseball, it relates to business, it relates to real world things. Like I said, how many times you're going to be able to speak in front of somebody, so you're really not that good at it, so you got to do it as much as possible. You have to go up there, and I remember I hated public speaking in college, hated it.
Yeah.
And I wish I took it more seriously, because now I still hate it, and I wish I was better.
But you do it. But you do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I do it because I want to be better at it,
Yeah.
And so as far as the parables and the art, man, I just want to be relatable and want people to see it and feel what I went through or what I'm going through.
Keep going, man. Tell people where can they find you? Where, if someone is interested in donating bone marrow, where can they go? Just go down your web and your socials.
Yeah, so I have a couple. For digital art, you can find me superrare.co/superseas4, and Seas is spelled S as in Sam, Z as in zebra, C as in Charles, Z as in zebra, and the number 4. You can go to mattcaesarart.com, which is super easy, and you can go to seizetoday.com, where I have shirts and apparel, where everything that is bought from that site goes right to my foundation. And that's S as in Sam, Z as in zebra, C as in Charles, Z as in zebra, theday.com.
I love it, man. We will, and I'll link some stuff up in the Twitter show notes and over on YouTube. And yeah, can't wait to get this one out to the people.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked, man. I'm so pumped to be on here.
Man, pleasure to officially meet you. And now that we figured out we're in the same region, it's time for a cheesesteak one of these days.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.